It'll be funny to see how quickly feminists embrace the kitchen when World War III breaks out.
Let me introduce you to Victoria Amelina. She graduated with a degree in computer science and worked in the IT industry for over a decade. In her late 20s, she transitioned to being a full-time writer. Her debut novel, about a man with the gift, the curse, of complete empathy with the suffering of others. Yeah, I know, you can't relate. Won critical acclaim and accolades, as did her subsequent books. And when her country was invaded by Russia, she ran towards the fighting to help, distributing humanitarian aid, and using her skills as a writer to travel to conflict zones as a war crimes investigator, giving a voice to the countless civilians who'd had theirs silenced, documenting them and interviewing witnesses, and tirelessly using her platform on the world stage to draw attention to the atrocities being committed. She used her experiences to begin working on another book, looking at women looking at war, following the women like herself, journalists, human rights defenders, lawyers, and volunteers who were documenting the war crimes in Ukraine. A book that will be posthumously released in February. I say posthumously because Victoria, who dedicated her life to documenting the war crimes in Ukraine, was herself killed in yet another war crime. On June 27th, 2023, while having dinner with friends at a restaurant packed with civilians, the restaurant was targeted by a Russian ballistic missile. The attack killed over a dozen people and wounded at least 60 more. Victoria was taken to hospital with critical injuries that would sadly prove to be fatal, and she died a few days later. This is the reality of war. The reality of women and feminism at war. That those whose values are based on compassion, empathy, equity, and rejecting violence, fighting suffering and oppression, see the horrors done to others in the name of violence, and put themselves in harm's way to help ease that suffering, even though it may cost them everything. Victoria is one of a countless list of women throughout the world and throughout history, whose name, whose lives, whose courage and bravery you will never even bother to learn, and you will never measure up against.